Space+Modern Cultivation+Serving the Motherland+Invincible Flow+Easy and refreshing Writing+Bi-directional journey, Jiarong Fairy, who failed to ascend, was reborn at the scene of being bullied by her cousin at the age of 5 in her previous life. Since you have returned, there is gratitude and revenge. If my cousin snatches her things, she will snatch them back. Her cousin wanted to teach her a lesson, so she beat them up at night and couldn't get out of bed. Anyway, Qiao Jiarong wouldn't be bullied by these top-notch people anymore. She will not forget those who have shown kindness to her. Using his expertise in growing medicinal herbs, he led the villagers to become wealthy and became the god of wealth among the entire village population. A psychic invades and beats them to the ground searching for teeth. There were monsters causing trouble, so they were all sent back to their original form and given to their colleagues as spiritual pets. There are cultivators who fight freely in the mortal world. To the point where mortals have suffered countless deaths and injuries, they have directly abolished their cultivation and awakened themselves, allowing them to also compensate for the feeling of being bullied. Study during the day, cultivate immortality at night, and occasionally take on tasks. Practice a pill when you have free time, teach your disciples when you have free time, and live a leisurely life. P.S. In the early stage, abuse the scum, and in the later stage, serve the motherland. Keywords of the novel. Master of Immortal Cultivation. No pop-ups in 2020. Master of Immortal Cultivation. Download the complete collection in 2020 TXT. Master of Immortal Cultivation. Read the latest chapters in 2020. Chapter 1. Failure in Crossing Robbery and Rebirth. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 2. Defying my granddaughter's reputation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 2. Defying my granddaughter's reputation. However, the thought of going home may lead to hunger. Qiao Jiarong planned to take a pigu dan from the warehouse to make do with it, but found that there was no pigu dan in the space. Also, as a great power during the transition period, I have been able to clear the valley for a long time, so I don't need the clear valley pill at all. Naturally, I won't keep these useless pills in the warehouse. Without pigu dan, Qiao Jiarong could only think of other ways. She first tidied up 2 pieces of spiritual field in the space and planted spiritual rice. Then, go down the mountain to the farmland to move a few vegetables, and then go to the river to catch some fish and shrimp and put them in the small river in the space for cultivation. With these, she won't be hungry anymore. As long as the foundation is built, these foods will not be needed. The spatial flow is fast, and she can eat quickly without worrying about hunger. By the time Qiao Jiarong finished these tasks, the sun had already turned west. Looking at the wisps of cooking smoke in the distance, Qiao Jiarong guessed. At this moment, Grandma should have crossed her waist and scolded her at the door again. It's not that Qiao Jiarong thinks so badly of her grandmother, but that Jiang Ermei has done this before. Sure enough, when Qiao Jiarong left the village, she heard her grandmother scolding her at the door from a long distance. Where did that dead girl go again? No one did a lot of work at home. She even went out to play. Why didn't she die outside? The neighbors on both sides have become accustomed to it and know that Jiang Ermei has always looked down on her third daughter. In law. She always scolds her at the doorstep when she has nothing to do. Now that her third daughter. In law is gone, she scolds Qiao Jiarong, the child she gave birth to. However, the old lady scolded too harshly. Even if you don't like your daughter. In law, you can't curse your granddaughter like this. But this is someone else's business, and as neighbors, it's not easy for them to say anything. Lest that unreasonable old lady aim the fire at them again, they don't want to cause trouble for an unrelated person. Give a bite at most when the child is hungry. One of the neighbors, named Osmanthus, saw Qiao Jiarong coming back from outside covered in dirt. Quickly speaking to Jiang Ermei, who was still cursing incessantly, he said, "Auntie Qiao, stop cursing for now. The clothes on the child's body are all covered in mud. Hurry up and change her into clean clothes first." What kind of clothes should I change into? Some will look good. If you want to wear clean clothes, wash them yourself. If you haven't been home all day, you don't know where to go. Jiang Ermiai said as she reached out to poke Qiao Jiarong's face. Qiao Jiarong quickly took 2 steps back, until Jiang Ermiai's fingers couldn't reach her head. I finally stood still and said, "Grandma, I didn't go out to play. It was my cousin and cousin who pulled me out." Dare to argue, Xiaojia and Meili have already returned. If they don't learn well at a young age, they have learned to lie. As she spoke, Jiang Ermiai picked up the broom by the wall and turned her head against Qiao Jiarong's body. The broom head is very hard, and hitting someone hurts. Previously, Qiao Jiarong was beaten and dared not run away. So, she was beaten a lot and had countless bruises on her body. If it weren't for soaking in the Lingquan pool for so long today, I wouldn't know when the bruises on my body would be able to fade away. Now Qiao Jiarong is no longer her original self, she will no longer stand still and be beaten. Before Jiang Ermiai could hit her, Qiao Jiarong ran out. While running, he deliberately shouted loudly, "Grandma, stop hitting me. It was really my cousin and cousin who took me out. They hit me together and even hit my head with bricks, bleeding a lot. Look, I still have blood on me." Qiao Jiarong's cry attracted the villagers, and upon hearing her words, everyone coincidentally focused their attention on her. Sure enough, there are blood stains, especially on the collar of the clothes. Just because the color of the clothes was dark, nobody paid attention at first. Jiang Ermiai didn't listen well, and this damn little slut actually ruined the reputation of her 2 granddaughters. In the future, how will the 2 granddaughters behave in the village? No, we can't let this little bastard continue. We'll teach her a lesson when we get home. So, Jiang Ermiai put down the broom in her hand. With a cold face, he said to Qiao Jiarong, "Don't talk recklessly at home. You're playful and blame others. Since you're still young, I won't argue with you anymore. Hurry up and go home. It's time for dinner." The neighbors breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Jiang Ermiai was no longer chasing Qiao Jiarong. They couldn't help but say, "Finally, I'm not chasing anymore. The child is so young, what if it breaks?" This old lady Jiang is quite reasonable, how painful it is to hit someone with this broom's head. Besides, the child has only shed so much blood, how can they withstand such a run? The child's body is still weak. If we hurt the root again, it would be terrible. How could anyone else know Jiang Ermiai's true thoughts? They all thought that Jiang Laotai was too soft-hearted. Although she spoke harshly, she still cared about Xiao Rong in her heart. After all, she was her biological granddaughter. Qiao Jiarong wouldn't think that Mrs. Jiang is being soft-hearted. She knows this old lady too well. She never considered her granddaughter at all. In her heart, Qiao Meili and Chen Jia were her granddaughters. Qiao Jiarong knew in her past life that Mrs. Jiang didn't like her mother. So, along with not liking her. But she never expected that old lady Jiang didn't like it so much that she wished she would die. Why is she so cruel to her when she says she is also the biological child of her father? Unless Dad is not Mrs. Jiang's biological child. Only in this way can we make sense of Mrs. Jiang's various anomalies towards her. But that's not right either. They are still good to Dad, but not to her and Mom. Qiao Jiarong thought it over, and it's possible that they were also not good to their childhood father. But later on, my dad made money and they wanted my dad's money, so they didn't do anything excessive. It has to be said that Qiao Jiarong is the truth. Qiao Weimin is not even the son of Qiao Laosi and his wife. How could they possibly like Qiao Weimin? But because of his good looks, he was taken in by the daughter of a cadre in the town. Qiao and his wife changed their original thoughts and treated him better. But Qiao Weimin was not willing to marry the daughter of that cadre at all, and even fell in love with Lu Rou, who was an educated youth. Qiao Laosi and Jiang Ermei didn't agree with him marrying Lu Rou, so they kicked him out. Unexpectedly, Qiao Weimin was lucky enough to become a driver of the transportation team and earn a lot of money to come back. Qiao Laosi and Jiang Ermei agreed to let Lu Rou enter the door only after seeing that Qiao Weimin could pay more than half of his salary. However, after Qiao Weimin left home, they revealed their true form. Jiang Ermei pushed all the household chores onto Lu Rou, and even when she was pregnant, she didn't let her rest. Lu Rou has asthma and her body is already not good. Unable to rest any longer, my body is getting worse and worse. I was so tired that I almost had a miscarriage, but fortunately, my neighbor discovered it in time and saved Qiao Jiarong's life. Later, when Qiao Weimin came back and heard about this, she got angry and Jiang Ermei asked other daughter.in.law to share some household chores. But Lu Rou still eats the worst food, and even her child has poor development and difficult childbirth. After Qiao Jiarong was born, Lu Rou injured her body and could no longer conceive. Just born Qiao Jiarong was a small mess, and several times his life was on the line when he went to the hospital for rescue. The money Qiao earned for the people was all invested in the hospital because of Qiao Jiarong. Jiang Ermei felt that Qiao Jiarong couldn't support her, which was a waste of money. I wanted to throw her away, but Qiao Weimin and Lu Rou disagreed. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Revenge against the Qiao family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Revenge against the Qiao family. Later on, Lu Rou's asthma became increasingly severe, and Qiao Weimin took his wife to the city. I worked while treating my wife until she passed away in a car accident. Shortly after Qiao Weimin's death, Lu Rou was so sad that her old illness recurred, and she followed her in less than half a year. Afterwards, Qiao Jiarong was no different from an orphan. Not enough to eat, not warm to wear. The never-ending work, and often being bullied. Thinking of his deceased parents, Qiao Jiarong felt another wave of sadness in his heart. If only she had come back earlier, maybe she could have prevented the car accident from happening, so that her father would be alive and her mother wouldn't have died too sad. Qiao Jiarong sighed in his heart and stood still. Jiang Ermei put down her broom and pulled Qiao Jiarong home, but Qiao Jiarong did not resist. She allowed Jiang Ermei to quickly lead her towards the direction of the Qiao family. She has now reached the 5th level of qi refining, which is more than enough to deal with an old woman in her 50s and 60s. So, Qiao Jiarong is not afraid of Jiang Ermei using any means against her. Jiang Ermei pulled Qiao Jiarong back home and just walked into the yard. Jiang Ermei threw Qiao Jiarong into the courtyard, turned around, and closed the gate. Then he picked up the flat dan placed behind the courtyard door and threw it at Qiao Jiarong, saying, "I'll kill you little bastard to ruin my granddaughter's reputation." Qiao Jiarong knew it was not good when Jiang Ermei fell into the yard and took early precautions. When Jiang Ermei smashed it down with a flat dan, Qiao Jiarong quickly cast a earth-style spell and threw it at her feet. Jiang Ermei was too busy hitting Qiao Jiarong and didn't even pay attention. Under the soles of the feet. I fell off my horse and hit my teeth on Biandan's head. Biandan had wooden nails hanging from both ends, right on top of her mouth. At that time, blood flowed out and the 2 front teeth on top were also knocked off. Jiang Ermei screamed in pain and called out all of Qiao Laosi, her son, and daughter.in.law who were inside the room. Seeing the Qiao family come out, Qiao Jiarong was not afraid, on the contrary, she was very excited. Because she can take revenge soon. Qiao Laosi and his sons came out and saw Jiang Ermei fall to the ground. Her mouth was still bleeding incessantly, and she stepped forward with heartache to help her up. Seeing Qiao Jiarong standing on the side again, Qiao Laosi remained silent. Pointing at Qiao Jiarong's nose, he cursed, "You unfilial thing, didn't you see your grandmother fall? I don't know how to help her, but I don't know how to call someone. Don't eat dinner today, go back to your room and wake me up." After speaking, let the two sons help Mrs. Jiang into the house. Qiao Jiarong stood in front of them at this moment and said, "Did I allow you to leave? Do you still think I was the little pitiful person who bullied me casually before? Today, I will come and settle the accounts with you." Qiao Laosi saw that Qiao Jiarong dared to stop them, but he didn't wait for her to finish speaking. He said to his grandchildren at the door, "Teach her a good lesson and let her know what it means to have a sense of seniority." Qiao Lei and his brothers listened to Qiao Laosi's words and surrounded Qiao Jiarong in groups. The siblings of the Qiao family were surprised to see Qiao Jiarong. "Isn't this dead girl dead? How did you come back again? Can't a sudden corpse be destroyed? No matter what, even if she really dies, they are not afraid. Qiao Jiarong is just a coward. If it's too big, they can kill her again." So, Qiao Lei punched Qiao Jiarong in the face with his fist raised. Qiao Jiarong waited for this moment and without saying a word, he grabbed Qiao Lei's fist. Then he swung him around like this, sweeping out all the people around her. After everyone fell to the ground, Qiao Jiarong finally released Qiao Lei. Qiao Lei immediately flew out and didn't stop until he collided with his courtyard wall. At this moment, Qiao Lei was hit and his face was covered in blood, looking so scary. At least, Chen Jie, who had just walked into the yard, was scared. She screamed and said, "Dead. Big cousin has been killed by a little wild seed." The Qiao family members in the room were all shouted out by her, and Qiao Lei's mother Chen Suying was frightened and fainted when she saw her son's miserable appearance. Fortunately, her husband Qiao Ziji was right beside her and quickly helped her up. Then, he said to Qiao Jiarong standing in the yard, "What's going on?" "It's just what you see," Qiao Jiarong shrugged and said nonchalantly. "You are indeed an uneducated person," Qiao Ziji said angrily as he looked at Qiao Jiarong. Qiao Jiarong didn't care about Qiao Ziji scolding her, but said to him, "If you can't get angry, you can avenge your sons and nephews. Don't worry, I respect the old and love the young, I promise to take action lightly." After Qiao Laosi came out and heard her words, he was so angry that he picked up the pole at hand and hit Qiao Jiarong. While fighting and cursing, he said, "I killed this heartless little brat today. You can beat your cousin and his team. If you still want to fight your uncle, have you eaten the bear's heart and leopard's gallbladder?" Ah! Qiao Jiarong deliberately ran towards her brothers, so Qiao Laosi's pole did not hit Qiao Jiarong, but instead hit her second cousin Qiao Yan. Qiao Yan let out a loud cry, and his second aunt Qian Xiaofang said to Qiao Laosi from behind, "Dad, you watch and beat him. Xiao Yan is still injured." Qiao Laosi also felt guilty, so he didn't speak. He directly crossed over Qiao Yan's body and continued to chase after Qiao Jiarong, chasing him back and forth. Qiao Jiarong is now a cultivator, and he is not afraid of this old man in his 50s. She bounced around her cousins, leading Qiao Laosi to hit them. Let them get beaten on her behalf, but Qiao Laosi didn't hit Qiao Jiarong and only hit his own grandson. Feeling extremely sorry for him made me hate Qiao Jiarong even more. But he was tired at this moment and couldn't catch up with Qiao Jiarong. So he pretended to say, "Grandpa is tired and won't hit you anymore. Xiao Rong, don't run away either." Qiao Jiarong had already recognized the faces of this family and didn't believe his words at all. Even if Qiao Laosi said he wouldn't hit her anymore, she would still stay far away from him to prevent him from attacking while he was not prepared. Qiao Laosi saw that Qiao Jiarong had not been deceived and knew he couldn't deceive her, so he threw away the pole and sat on the ground panting heavily. The Qiao Ziji brothers quickly helped their father back, and there will be plenty of opportunities to clean up Qiao Jiarong, a small wild seed. We cannot tire out their father. Then several female relatives quickly carried their sons back, and now there were only 3 people left in the yard. Chen Jie, Qiao Meili, and Qiao Jiarong. Neither Chen Jie nor Qiao Meili expected that Qiao Jiarong would suddenly become so powerful. Even though she was timid like a mouse before, it wasn't long before she dared to confront her grandfather. What the hell is going on here? Looking at the two people in front of him, Qiao Jiarong remembered his past life. Compared to Chen Jie, who has a cruel mouth and hands, Qiao Yiru hates Qiao Meili, who has a warm face and a malicious heart. In his past life, Qiao Jiarong didn't know much about Qiao Meili. I only know that Qiao Meili has never bullied her in the whole family, and occasionally helps her. It wasn't until the age of 16 that I accidentally discovered Zhou's beautiful true face. That day, she was bullied by Chen Jie and the others again. She wanted to go home and seek help from Qiao Meili, but was unexpectedly stopped by another child on the way. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Tragic Past Lives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Tragic past lives. They threw cow dung and dog poop at her, while cursing her for being ugly. I finally got rid of those bad kids and prepared to go home. Thinking of my cousin's love for cleanliness, I'm sure my cousin will despise me for being covered in cow dung and dog poop. So, Qiao Jiarong went to the riverbank to wash himself clean before returning home. Arriving at the door of my cousin's room, I was about to open it when I heard her voice coming from inside. Are you naughty again? Don't always bully Qiao Jiarong, there's still so much work at home for her to do. I know, that's why I didn't kill her. But I can't make her feel too good either. I just can't stand her fox-like demeanor. By the way, cousin. Why are you so good to that little bastard? Chen Jie asked Qiao Meili in confusion. I'm not helping her, I'm helping you. If others discover that you have bullied her, it will not be good for your reputation and will affect finding your husband's family in the future. Chen Jie didn't agree, but she didn't refute Qiao Meili's words. No big deal, when bullying Qiao Jiarong in the future, carry someone behind your back. This way, you don't have to worry about the villagers gossiping. Then Qiao Meili continued, also, our tuition fees are definitely not something our family can afford. But the dowry here is very high, as long as we marry Qiao Jiarong off, we will have money to pay the tuition fees. So, I asked my grandparents to find a mother-in-law for Qiao Jiarong, so we don't have to worry about tuition fees. My grandparents also agreed. So, don't bully her anymore recently, so that the man won't be unhappy when he sees her injuries. Chen Jie felt a little unhappy when she heard that Qiao Jiarong was leaving home to get married. How can Qiao Jiarong bully her if she gets married? How about having my grandparents terminate this marriage? Qiao Meili naturally disagreed, and she finally convinced her grandparents, unwilling to let her efforts go to waste. Besides, if she doesn't study, she will have to go out to work. Then find a country bumpkin to marry off, and of course Qiao Meili is not willing to accept it. Qiao Meili has long liked a transfer student in their class. The boy's home is in the county town because his parents have to work and don't have time to take care of him. That's why I transferred him to my uncle's house to study. I heard that both of his parents work in the county government. I am still an official, if I marry into such a family. She will become a city girl from now on, not a country girl that people look down upon. Qiao Meili will never allow anyone to sabotage her plan to become a city resident. Even the best cousin cannot do it. Since hearing their conversation, Qiao Jiarong realized that her cousin was not as good as she seemed to know on the surface. Since then, Qiao Jiarong has deliberately avoided Qiao Meili. Even if Chen Jie and a few cousins bully her no matter how much, Qiao Jiarong will no longer seek help from Qiao Meili. But no matter how she evades Qiao Meili, the Qiao family still wants to sell her to the old bachelor in the back mountain area. Qiao Jiarong was naturally unwilling, but she did not resist. Because she knew that resistance was useless and there was a possibility of being beaten up. But that night, Qiao Jiarong stole money from his family and ran away. Unfortunately, her luck was not good and she was sold into the deep mountains by human traffickers halfway through. Qiao Jiarong is unwilling to be trapped here and thinks of ways to escape every day. But none of them succeeded. Instead, the old man who bought her was angered by her several escapes, and he simply broke Qiao Jiarong's leg. In this way, she couldn't escape. In this way, Qiao Jiarong became disabled at a young age until he was rescued by a young police officer 10 years later. After being sent back by the police, none of Qiao's family wanted her to come back, and even everyone hated her to the bone. At first, Qiao Jiarong couldn't figure it out. Later, while the Qiao family came to beat her to vent, they intermittently learned about the process. Originally, the money taken by Qiao Jiarong was sent by that old bachelor. Now that Qiao Jiarong has escaped, the old bachelor naturally wants money from the Qiao family. But all the money has been taken by Qiao Jiarong, and the Qiao family has no money to return to the old bachelor. The old bachelor saw that the Qiao family didn't have money to repay, so he asked them to use another girl to repay. Anyway, the old bachelor just wants to get a wife, it doesn't matter whether she looks good or not. Otherwise, he wouldn't have agreed to offer a dowry of 200 yuan to marry Qiao Jiarong, a thin and short yellow-haired girl. Apart from Qiao Jiarong, there are only two girls in the Qiao family, Qiao Meili and Chen Jie, but Chen Jie's surname is Chen and she is not the daughter of the Qiao family. So, only Qiao Meili is left. Qiao Meili was determined to marry a city resident, but she didn't want to marry into that poor place in the mountainous area, let alone an old man in his 40s. But that bachelor is just a scoundrel, who wants to suffer losses, let alone suffer such a big loss. As long as the Qiao family doesn't make friends for a day, he will come and cause trouble for a whole day. The disturbance made it impossible for the Qiao family to live a normal life, and even the newly harvested grain in the field was taken away by the old bachelor and his men. The Qiao family cannot, they can only agree to marry a daughter. But neither Chen Jie nor Qiao Meili agreed to marry. Chen Jie even packed up and wanted to go home, but was eventually persuaded by Qiao Meili. Qiao Meili told her that she has a way to solve this matter and asked her not to rush back yet. Chen Jie thought that Qiao Meili really came up with a solution, because in her heart, Qiao Meili was the smartest person in the Qiao family. She said there's a way, so there must be a solution. What Chen Jie didn't expect was that Qiao Meili's solution was to have her replace Qiao Meili and marry that old bachelor. When Chen Jie woke up, it was already the next morning. The old bachelor has already done everything he needs to do, and Chen Jie has no choice but to regret it. Even if she wanted to go back to the Chen family for help, there was nothing she could do. The Chen family never cared about her daughter. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lived in the Qiao family for so many years and remained indifferent to her. Even when she comes home, she doesn't even have a place to live, and occasionally goes back during the Chinese New Year. She can only squeeze on her grandmother's bed, and Chen Jie doesn't like to go home either. Now she has nothing left, all of this was caused by Qiao Meili. So, on the second day after Chen Jie was married, she returned to Qiao's house and cursed at Qiao Meili for over an hour. He also moved away all the valuable things in the Qiao family. Since things have already turned out like this, it's not Chen Jie's personality to have to live or die. Chen Jie has never been a loser, moving things doesn't count. He even came to the Qiao family with the old bachelor every once in a while to have a fight, and never left empty-handed. Qiao Laosi and Jiang Ermiai looked at it and realized that this was not possible. There are only a few things at home, and they are almost empty by Chen Jie. Finally, the old couple discussed and decided to split up. As long as they split up, Chen Jie won't be staring at them anymore. Let her find the beauty of the boss's house when the time comes. Anyway, it was their siblings who did this. They have both been wronged and held accountable. It's time for Meili to repay these debts. The next day, Qiao Laosi asked several famous people in the village to testify and quickly divided the family for his sons. Qiao Laosi and his wife will live with their youngest son, and all other employees will have to move out of their old house before the new year. Sure enough, as Qiao Laosi thought. After the separation, Chen Jie didn't look for them anymore, but went directly to find Qiao Zicheng's family. Qiao Meili's family was also annoyed by Chen Jie, and finally had to persuade Qiao Meili to work outside. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Planting Grain and Medication. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Planting Grain and Medication. Qiao Meili was admitted to high school, but because her family didn't have the money to pay tuition. After borrowing money for a year, I couldn't borrow it the next year and had to give up studying. Besides her relationship with that boy, the two of them didn't even have a single word for each other. After finishing junior high school here, the boy went straight back to the county town without any interaction with Qiao Meili. After Qiao Meili dropped out of school, she has been self-learning at home. She wants to take the college entrance examination 2 years later through self-study, but her family is busy. In addition, Chen Jia often makes a fuss and has no time to study, so in the end, she has to give up. Until later, he was sent out by his family to work and met his husband who also worked outside. This boy is from their town and has much better conditions than the Qiao family. I gave a dowry of 2,000 during my wedding, not to mention anything else. The Qiao family was very satisfied with Qiao's beautiful partner, and soon the two had a wedding. Chen Jia, who came to cause trouble again, was not so polite anymore. But Chen Jia and his wife have been arguing for so long, and they have all they deserve. They don't care either. If you don't make a fuss, then don't make a fuss, but you can always visit relatives. It's just that every time they come empty-handed and don't say anything, the key is that they still eat a lot, and the Qiao family has nothing to do about it. Later on, Chen Jia became even worse when she had a child. As soon as she had no food to eat, she came to the Qiao family with her family. Qiao Meili always privately subsidizes her parents when they encounter difficulties. But Qiao Zicheng and his wife never dared to spend these money for fear of being discovered by others in the family. A few years passed like this, until Qiao Jiarong was sent back by the police. Chen Jia and the Qiao family only found an outlet to vent all their dissatisfaction and resentment on Qiao Jiarong. Not giving food and clothing, not saying anything, and often beating and scolding her. Qiao Jiarong has broken both legs and cannot walk at all. Unable to fight, unable to run away, and ultimately left unattended by the Qiao family in the pigsty. Finally, due to the severe injury, he died of a high fever in the pigsty. It was only on the third day after death that my neighbor Aunt Osmanthus discovered it. In fact, when Qiao Jiarong fell ill, Qiao Meili knew about it. But she didn't tell her family, instead persuading the Qiao family not to hit her again. Qiao's beautiful words made her neighbors praise her fiercely. Aunt Osmanthus told the Qiao family about this matter, and the Qiao family came out to take a look and went back. 2 days later, the Qiao family wrapped her body in a tattered straw mat and carried it to a random place on the mountain to bury it. Recalling all the things in his past life, Qiao Jiarong was so angry that he wished he could kill them all with his own hands. But she cannot, now it is a legal society, no longer the world where the strong are respected like in Xinyan continent. If it attracts other cultivators, it would be terrible. Moreover, although all her misfortunes in her past life were related to the Qiao family's bullying of her, they did not directly plan to harm her life. If you kill them all by yourself, it will lead to causality. When it comes to crossing the tribulation, the heavenly thunder will increase the punishment, and it is not worth accompanying one's life for these scumbags. Anyway, I have retrained now, and there will be plenty of time to clean up them in the future. Just like they tortured themselves in their past lives, she also had to slowly torture them. But without directly harming their lives, this can both seek revenge and prevent the heavenly Tao from finding an opportunity to punish her. Looking at the distant family, Qiao Jiarong walked back to his room with short legs. Saying it's a room, it's actually a firewood room. In addition to stacking a lot of firewood, there are also various agricultural tools inside. The bed made of Qiao Jiarong's wooden boards is located in the corner opposite the door. Qiao Jiarong returned to his room to practice for a while when he suddenly smelled the aroma of corn. After being hungry for most of the day, Qiao Jiarong's stomach began to growl. She opened her eyes and looked over to the main room, then went down to the kitchen to find something to eat. But after searching for a while, I couldn't find several types of melon and fruit seeds. Qiao Jiarong collected all those seeds into the space and planted them in the spiritual field with divine consciousness. With the acceleration of space, it won't be long before these fruits and melons can be eaten. Not long after, the vegetables and fish and shrimp that were planted before were all ripe. Qiao Jiarong took a pot and seasoning from the kitchen and returned to the room, closed the broken door, and then used something to press it against before entering the space. The rice in the field is not yet ripe, so we can only make some vegetables and shrimp first. Looking at the spiritual rice in the field that had only grown to calves, Qiao Jiarong regretted planting it first. She should have planted some ordinary rice first. Now Lingmi is not mature, so we can only eat vegetables. However, Qiao Jiarong remembered that Mrs. Jiang also raised a few chickens. Shrimp and vegetables may not be full, but chicken can be full. So, Qiao Jiarong sneaked to the chicken coop. Put all those chickens in the space, leaving only 2 old ones who don't lay much eggs. After harvesting the chicken, Qiao Jiarong ran back into the space. After tidying up, a large pot of chicken soup was placed on the table. Qiao Jiarong thought while eating. These chickens are not inferior to being raised by oneself, the meat is delicious. The remaining chickens, Qiao Jiarong plans to keep in the space like this. In the future, I can eat eggs and chicken anytime. As for tomorrow, what will Mrs. Zhang's reaction be if she wakes up and finds that the chicken is missing? That is not within her scope of consideration. After Qiao Jiarong finished eating, he collected all the ripe fruits and vegetables in the space into the warehouse. Then she went outside to collect some rice and wheat seeds to plant. I went around the main room again and prescribed medication for the rash on Xiao Meili and Qinjie. Then, I returned to the space to sleep. The medicine was just prepared by Qiao Jiarong after finishing his meal due to insufficient ingredients. She casually found 2 herbs to replace them, but she didn't know how effective they were. Anyway, I'll know after a while. I just came back today and have been busy for another day. Qiao Jiarong has no intention of practicing and will focus on spatial meditation. The speed of space is fast, and she can sleep for several more hours. After waking up, I found that the sky outside was not yet bright. The spiritual rice in the field is already ripe. Qiao Jiarong quickly collected the spiritual rice and planted it with ordinary rice and wheat, which can shorten the ripening time of rice and wheat. Before building the foundation, she needs to gather more grain and vegetables to make her own rations. Now there are grains and vegetables planted in the space, as well as chickens, fish, and shrimp. I should not be short of food in the short term. But there are no pots or stoves in the space, and there are no seasonings such as oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. It seems that we need to buy some back. As for the money, Qiao Jiarong plans to exchange some useless medicinal herbs. There is not much in the space, but there are many medicinal herbs, so much more can be eaten as a meal. Ginseng and lingji are just low-end medicinal materials. So, Qiao Jiarong decided to exchange a ginseng tree for some money to buy pots, bowls, seasonings, and put them in the space. Picking around in the warehouse, I finally found the smallest ginseng tree. Although it is the youngest in terms of age, it is still over 300 years old and should be worth 1,000 yuan. Find the ginseng and collect the ripe fruits and vegetables in the space. At this moment it was almost dawn outside, and Qiao Jiarong made space to return the pot, bowl, and seasoning. Then, lying on the bamboo bed in the firewood room, I closed my eyes and regained my senses. I don't know how long it was before Qiao Jiarong thought he was about to fall asleep. Suddenly, a scream came from outside, startling Qiao Jiarong awake. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Splashing Dirty Water. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Splashing Dirty Water. Qiao Jiarong glanced out of the window with his divine sense and then continued to sleep. After Jiang Ermiai called out, she stood next to the chicken coop and cursed loudly, "Who killed $1,000 and stole my chicken? I'm not afraid the chicken bones will choke him to death." The neighbors next to them all ran over to take a look and found that there were only 2 chickens left in old Qiao's chicken coop. While feeling surprised in my heart, I also had some doubts. It shouldn't have been this old lady shouting to catch a thief. After all, this chicken coop is still in good condition, with no chicken feathers inside. If someone comes to steal chickens, these chickens will definitely run away. Either run outside or fly around in the chicken coop. Regardless of the situation, there should be chicken feathers all over the chicken coop. It would never be as clean as it is now, and the 2 chickens left in the chicken coop are very comfortable, not at all frightened. Thinking of the old lady's usually unreasonable appearance, the neighbors shook their heads and went home. It's okay to watch this lively scene. It's better to go back early to avoid getting burned. Mrs. Jiang felt a bit anxious when she saw everyone leave. If the thief is among these people, how can they catch the thief themselves after they leave? So Mrs. Jiang continued, "You can't leave. The chicken thief hasn't been caught yet. Which of you stole it? As long as you return the remaining chicken, I won't mind stealing it." As soon as Mrs. Jiang said these words, it immediately aroused everyone's dissatisfaction. Someone immediately replied, "Aunt Qiao, this is because you are wrong. Your chicken has been stolen. If you're not in a good mood, curse twice to vent your frustration. We understand. But if you blame us for stealing chickens, then I won't do it. You'd better provide evidence, otherwise I'll go to the Public Security Bureau to sue you. Don't blame me for not reminding you when you're caught. This person is working in another city, and recently they came back from outside due to busy farming at home. He had no one at home, so he thought of contracting out the existing fields to save him running back and wasting his wages. This person has been running outside for several months, and he has also become more shrewd. I won't let old lady Jiang wrongly accuse him. Besides, he still doesn't like the few chickens in the Qiao family. He can buy 3 roasted chickens with all the money he earns in a day. Will he take a liking to the few local chickens in the Qiao family? Yes, yes. Maybe she caught the chicken and killed it herself, but deliberately cursed us here." Others also joined in refuting. Mrs. Jiang felt a bit scared when this business neighbor said so. She's just an illiterate old lady, how can she understand any laws? She only knows how to curse, and has the ability to cry, make trouble, and hang herself. But she was afraid, so she gritted her head and said, "I threw away the chickens at home, I didn't kill and eat them myself. Besides, I can't finish a meal with so many chickens at home. Even if the police came, I would say that. Whether you throw or kill your chicken is your own business, it has nothing to do with us. Don't think of splashing dirty water on me. If you have the ability, come up with evidence. If you keep talking nonsense here, don't blame me for being impolite." One of the tall and sturdy men raised his fist and said to Mrs. Jiang, "Man is the second slip in the village. His mother gave birth to 7 daughters, and only the 8th gave birth to such a son. I have been pampered since childhood and have developed the habit of being lazy and sneaky." Mrs. Jiang just said that to him, but he really didn't steal it this time. Even last night he was not at home, playing cards with a group of thugs in the countryside until dawn. I just returned from the countryside in the morning and was about to open the door to go home and sleep. Just now I heard Mrs. Jiang cursing at her doorstep, and out of curiosity, I ran over to watch the excitement. I didn't expect to see myself in the end in this lively scene. Mrs. Jiang was too scared to speak when she saw his fierce and vicious appearance. That person just turned around and went home satisfied. The others saw it and quickly went home. Mrs. Jiang left when she saw everyone, and then looked at her empty chicken coop. Mrs. Jiang sat down on the ground, crying and saying, "Oh my goodness. I can't live anymore. The chickens I've been raising for a few years are gone like this. Where will the children's tuition come from in the future? The tone of her crying was rhythmic, and those who didn't know thought she was singing. Qiao Jiarong lay in bed, curling his lips and thinking. Besides, all the eggs laid by the chicken were eaten by Qiao Meili and her siblings. When did they sell them? And most of their tuition fees were sent back from outside by her father Qiao Weimin. As Qiao Weimin's daughter, she has never spent a penny sent back by her parents. After her father passed away, the Qiao family ran out of money and only sold eggs a few times. She can't even spend the money on selling eggs, just like the clothes on her body. She was already short enough to have calves and stomachs, and my grandmother never thought about changing her clothes. Therefore, Qiao Jiarong has no burden to smuggle those raised by Qiao's family into the space. After Mrs. Jiang finished scolding, Qiao Jiarong slowly stretched out from the woodshed. Mrs. Jiang is in a bad mood. Only then did Qiao Jiarong come out of the room. She pointed at Qiao Jiarong and cursed, "You lazybones, the sun is shining on your buttocks. You just wake up at this time and wait for me, the old lady, to take care of you every day." After a commotion that day, the Qiao family dare not hit Qiao Jiarong anymore. At most, they just treat her like air, don't call her anything when eating, and they don't dare to go too far with anything else. Just like today, if it were in a past life, Qiao Jiarong couldn't escape a beating. Now, Jiang Ermiai only dares to speak and dare not take action anymore. Qiao Jiarong listened to Jiang Ermiai's words and glanced at her without saying a word, then swaggered out. She's too lazy to pay attention to this crazy woman. She ran straight out of her house and onto the street, using magic to alter her appearance when no one was around halfway. Become a teenager and slowly walk down the street carrying a backpack. Qiao Jiarong arrived at the street in town, and the sun had already reached his head. Today is not a good day, it's noon again. So, there aren't many people on the street at this time. Qiao Jiarong went to a pharmacy in the center of the street and saw an old man sleeping on a bamboo chair behind the counter. She came to the counter and patted the table, shouting, "Boss, business is here." Who's calling me?" The old man quickly opened his eyes and found Qiao Jiarong standing in front of the counter. Thinking she was here to buy medicine, she spoke to Qiao Jiarong and said, "Young man, what medicine do you want to buy?" "Boss, I don't buy medicine. I have medicinal herbs to sell here, will you take them?" Qiao Jiarong took out the ginseng wrapped in cloth from his pocket and shook it in front of the old man. The old man is not collecting medicinal herbs for the first time, and he was not surprised when he heard that the other party was selling medicinal herbs. Just silently getting up from the chair, then taking a pair of eyes from the nearby table and putting them on, he said, "What medicinal herbs? Bring them to me for a look." Qiao Jiarong handed over the ginseng that had just been pulled out of the ground. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Being kicked out of the house. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Being kicked out of the house. The old man opened the rag wrapped outside and saw fresh ginseng inside. And it looks like it's been hundreds of years, and I don't know from which mountain this young man picked ginseng of such a large age. His pharmacy had also received ginseng several times before, but those ginseng were not very old. This is the first time he has encountered ginseng that has been around for 100 years. Even if they have it, they won't sell it. I have to raise the price a bit myself. After passing this village, this store will never be available again. With this in mind, the old man extended 4 fingers to Qiao Jiarong and said, 40,000 yuan, this price is only high and not low in the high market. Seeing the shop owner extend 4 fingers, he thought it was 4,000. I didn't expect it to be 40,000 yuan. This wild ginseng is really valuable. Fortunately, the smallest one was taken, Qiao Jiarong thought happily in his heart. Qiao Jiarong quickly nodded, with this money, she could buy a lot of things. The pharmacy owner saw Qiao Jiarong's agreement and quickly went to the back to get the money. Quickly, Qiao Jiarong saw the other party holding 4 bundles of green bills and putting them on the counter, saying, can you click on them and see if they are much less? Qiao Jiarong knows a lot with just a glance of his divine sense, without even needing to point. She put all the money in the basket and said, "No need, I can trust the boss." The pharmacy owner listened to her words and touched her beard, saying with a smile, "Young man, if you have good medicinal herbs next time, please bring them to me. The old man will definitely give you a fair price." "Okay, thank you, boss." After selling ginseng, Qiao Jiarong went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, pots and pans, and so on. Because there were no bottles with oil and vinegar, Qiao Jiarong spent 50 cents to buy several glass bottles. Usually, people use wine bottles or similar materials to store these items. Qiao Jiarong doesn't have these bottles and can only afford to buy them himself. After buying these, Qiao Jiarong bought himself 2 sets of clothes and shoes. Her clothes and shoes are too worn out, she can't wear those worn out clothes again when she goes out in the future. The young salesperson from the supply and marketing cooperative saw that she had bought many clothes for little girls. I thought he was already married and felt sad for a while. Qiao Jiarong doesn't know the other person's mental activity. If she knew, she would definitely not transform herself into a handsome young man. To avoid causing any trouble for oneself. After buying clothes and shoes, Qiao Jiarong went to the cashier to pay. The cashier saw several hundred yuan bills that she had taken out of her basket and was secretly surprised. Is this person with too much money and no place to put it? Putting so much money in the basket is not afraid of people stealing it. Qiao Jiarong was just pretending to take money from the north basket, but in fact, that money had already been transferred to the space by her. After all, with so much money, how much it would hurt to lose her. Although this situation is unlikely to occur, just in case. Qiao Jiarong carried the purchased goods and went home, waiting until there was no one on the way. Qiao Jiarong threw all the things in his hand into the space and used his divine sense to build a kitchen in the space. When he had free time, he could open a small stove in the space for himself. With the kitchen and cooking tools, Qiao Jiarong is not afraid to go hungry anymore. After returning to the village, Qiao Jiarong did not go home immediately. She first went to a deserted place on the mountain to cook in a space, and then walked slowly towards home after eating. Mrs. Jiang couldn't bear to see Qiao Jiarong leisurely and saw her coming back from outside. Pointing at her nose, he cursed, "Do you still know how to come back? He doesn't do anything all day long, and eating is the most active. Why don't you wait until we finish eating before coming back? Raising a pig is more useful than you, at least it can kill and eat meat when it grows up. What can you do?" Qiao Jiarong really didn't know that her family was eating at this time, even though she had just eaten and wasn't hungry. But being scolded for so long, at least eating something made them feel heartbroken. So, Qiao Jiarong walked into the kitchen amidst Mrs. Jiang's scolding. After filling himself with a large bowl, he sat down at the table and started eating, picking out all the good ones. For example, she ate 3 golden corn cakes alone. When she picked up the 4th one, Jiang Ermei quickly stepped forward and took away the plate of corn cakes. If she continues to eat like this, their whole family won't have to eat anymore. There were not many corn cakes in total, and after Qiao Jiarong ate 3 of them, the rest of them were not enough to share. The Qiao family breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that the corn cake had been taken away by Mrs. Jiang. This damn girl, why didn't she take those black pancakes and choose delicious ones to eat? Qiao Jiarong was not upset when he saw that the tortilla had been taken away, so he calmly drank the congee in the bowl. Then he pushed the bowl, wiped his mouth, and added it to his room. In the following days, Qiao Jiarong went to the space to practice every morning and evening. Mrs. Jiang wants to work with her every day, but she can't even see a trace. She was so angry that she didn't cook for Qiao Jiarong directly, hoping to use it to hold on to him. But Qiao Jiarong doesn't care at all. Anyway, there is no shortage of food and drink in the space, and even the food is better than at home. Moreover, after entering the space every day, she has plenty of time to practice. Later on, Qiao Jiarong simply didn't come back, avoiding running back and forth and seeing everyone in the Qiao family. Qiao Jiarong was not at home, but Qiao Meili and Qin Jia were dissatisfied. Originally, with Qiao Jiarong at home, they could still steal some laziness. Now she's not at home, and all the household chores have been divided between the two of them. It's strange if they can be satisfied. However, they were not satisfied with Qiao Jiarong and didn't care at all. She continued to practice day and night in the space. More than a month has passed quickly, and the autumn harvest is about to begin. At this time, the people of the entire Daiyushu village have started to get busy. During this period, Qiao Jiarong has been practicing in space. However, the progress of cultivation has not been obvious recently, as if encountering a bottleneck. So, Qiao Jiarong decided to learn something else to pass the time. Previously in the cultivation world, she only learned how to practice pills. I have only learned the gathering spirit formation before, and have not learned anything else. So, this time Qiao Jiarong decided to learn the deduction array and talisman. I originally wanted to learn how to refine weapons, but the warehouse was filled with advanced materials that were difficult to collect. Qiao Jiarong couldn't bear to waste them like this. The materials for making talismans can be purchased from outside with just a little money. At the beginning of learning how to set up formations, all you need to do is push and spread, not even the formation flag. So, Qiao Jiarong will temporarily learn formations. Now all you need to do is find a quiet place and use small stones to push and spread. As for making talismans, we will have to wait for a while. When we have time, we can go down the mountain to buy talisman paper and cinnabar, and then we can learn how to make talismans. Practice is always boring, and in addition, there hasn't been much progress in recent cultivation. Even the promotion of the formation was not very smooth, so Qiao Jiarong planned to go down the mountain to take a look and calm his mind. When she returned home, she found that the bamboo bed she had slept on was gone. The place where the bamboo bed was originally placed was filled with agricultural tools and manure barrels, and the smell was so strong that it could suffocate people. Qiao Jiarong quickly covered his nose and left the firewood room. Are you not planning to let her stay at home anymore? Was he kicked out of the house? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Everyone sleepwalks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Everyone sleepwalks. Although Qiao Jiarong didn't want to stay in this family in his heart. But now she hasn't left yet, and her family has demolished her bed, which makes her very unhappy. After all, most of the furniture at home was arranged before her father passed away, and now she doesn't even have a wooden bed left for her. This is excessive. Since you are not kind, then don't blame yourself for being unfilial as a junior. Besides, her household registration is still at home, and her fields are also at home. She won't leave the Qiao family until she gets these things. Next, Qiao Jiarong directly took out the incense he had made during his free time on the mountain from the space and lit it in various rooms. Originally, the production of Mixiang was just to play tricks on my cousins, but now I have to give each of them a little bit, and I don't know if it's enough. Qiao Jiarong lit incense in every room of the Qiao family, and only after the incense was burned did he enter and drag out all the people in the room and throw them into the yard. Qiao Jiarong's body has undergone spiritual transformation, not only restoring health, but also increasing in strength and growth. Qiao Jiarong threw the other members of the Qiao family into the yard one by one. Finally, she walked into the rooms of Qiao Meili and Qin Jia, dragging them out one by one, regardless of whether they might bump or not. When we arrived at the yard and saw the speckled scars on their faces, Qiao Jiarong suddenly remembered that he had drugged them before. I just didn't expect this medicine to be so effective that it made them itch and even scratch their skin. It didn't work out for so long. During this day, it was probably this incident that made Qiao Jiarong the happiest. After dragging the two out, Qiao Jiarong threw a cleaning technique on the bed. Take out some antibacterial powder from the space and sprinkle it on the bed before lying down to sleep. Since returning, Qiao Jiarong has been thinking every day about how to improve his strength and no longer be bullied by his cousins. I slept soundly all night, and besides eating, I also practiced. When I had some free time, I went to collect herbs and prepare them. Ultimately, it's still because she's too weak. If her original cultivation was still there would be no need for such trouble. A direct pressure would make them lie on the ground unable to get up, without even needing to move their hands. We still have to start over now, but fortunately there is still room, otherwise Qiao Jiarong would be very frustrated. Perhaps due to mental relaxation, Qiao Jiarong fell asleep shortly after. I had no dreams all night until dawn when I was awakened by the sound outside. It turned out that the Mianxiao family, who were sleeping outside, woke up and were all guessing what was going on. How could everyone sleep outside after sleeping well? If a person runs outside to sleep in the middle of the night, it may be sleepwalking. But with so many people sleeping outside together, it's definitely not sleepwalking. It's impossible for everyone to sleepwalk, so they suspect that someone is playing tricks. The reason for their noise was that they had disagreements when they went to find the master to ward off evil. Women led by Jiang Ermei all demand to find a master to ward off evil, while men led by Qiao Laosi all believe that someone is playing tricks. Just find out the troublemaker, there's no need to spend this unjustified money. Qiao Jiarong was so noisy that he couldn't sleep, so he had to get up from bed. When I came outside, I saw my grandmother constantly persuading my grandfather. When Qiao Jiarong walked out of the house, everyone in the Qiao family widened their eyes. When did this debt collector come back? They will sleep in the yard, is this dead girl causing trouble? After thinking about it for a while, it's not right. She's just a 5-year-old girl, how could she possibly move adults like them? Are there still so many people? Don't say it's a 5-year-old child. Even adults find it difficult to move so many people at once without disturbing them. Only Chen Jie, who had no brain, pointed at Qiao Jiarong and said, "It was you who brought us into the yard, wasn't it?" Qiao Jiarong rolled his eyes at her, not admitting but not denying it. Upon hearing Chen Jie's words, the Qiao family finally reflected on it. This granddaughter, niece, cousin, who has been missing for over a month has returned, and Jiang Ermei is so angry when she thinks about what happened before Qiao Jiarong left home. She pointed at Qiao Jiarong and cursed, "How dare you come back, you little brat. Look, I won't kill you today." She then took a wooden stick from the edge of the courtyard wall and walked towards Qiao Jiarong. Qiao Jiarong stood still and didn't run this time. When Jiang Ermei bent down with a wooden stick and hit her leg, she stepped on the stick. Being picked by her like this, Jiang Ermei's hand suddenly loosened. The tiger's mouth was slightly numb from the shock, indicating how much strength Qiao Jiarong had used. During Jiang Ermei's stun period, Qiao Jiarong pushed her towards the direction of Qiao Laosi and Qiao Ziji. The two of them were accidentally bumped into each other, and the three of them fell together. Jiang Ermei is at the top, but she hasn't been hurt much. Qiao Laosi felt a slight pain in his arm because he was too close to Jiang Ermei. Only Qiao Ziji, because behind Qiao Laosi, both Qiao Laosi and Jiang Ermei fell onto him. Jiang Ermei sat all over his calf, causing him to scream in pain. Startled, Jiang Ermei quickly got up from the ground. Unexpectedly, she got up in a panic and accidentally fell again, sitting on Qiao Ziji's painful leg. Upon hearing Qiao Ziji's incessant screams, Qiao Jiarong felt somewhat pitiful towards him. Her uncle's leg, even if not broken, is already cracked. At least it will hurt for 10 days and a half a month, but when will it get better? Qiao Jiarong speculates that it will take at least 3 months. As the saying goes, after 100 days of injury, Qiao Ziji should not be able to walk any more recently. However, what does this have to do with Qiao Jiarong? She doesn't care about the life or death of the Qiao family. As long as she has food, drink, and time to practice, she doesn't care about anything else. Qiao Laosi and Jiang Mei chased Qiao Jiarong for a long time without even touching her hair. Instead, they caused their own son and grandson to be injured all over, and now they dare not attack Qiao Jiarong anymore. Qiao Jiarong saw that they were not making a fuss anymore, so he said slowly, "Now you can speak well." Everyone in the Qiao family watched with vigilance as she remained silent. After a while, Qiao Laosi said, "What do you want?" "I don't want anything, as long as you return the original firewood shed to me and put the bamboo bed back in its original place. Also, I don't do housework, but my family needs to cook my food. If I don't cook, I'll eat yours. Don't blame me if you don't have to eat then." Just as Qiao Jiarong finished speaking, Jiang Ermiai couldn't wait to reply, "You dream." "Am I dreaming? You can give it a try. By then, I won't be sleeping in the yard anymore. You might wake up in the back mountain. If you're not lucky enough to meet a wolf, it'll be terrible." Qiao Jiarong said with a smile. "You. Indeed, it's you. So you brought us into the yard." The Qiao family pointed at Qiao Jiarong and accused him, but they couldn't understand. Why did a person who was originally submissive suddenly become so powerful? Is it really like what they said about being possessed by evil? How about inviting a master to make the recipe? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Silver Key Stolen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Silver Key Stolen. But then, thinking of what had happened a few years ago, the Qiao family quickly gave up their thoughts. Although the situation is not as tense as before, Qiao Laosi is still afraid of being discovered by others, which is also the reason why he has always opposed Jiang Ermiai's search for a master. After considering the gains and losses, Qiao Laosi strongly agreed to Qiao Jiarong's request, excluding public opinion. "Since I agree to let Qiao Jiarong stay at home, the next step is to tidy up the firewood room and set up a bamboo bed. These matters will be handled by the Qiao family, and there is no need for Qiao Jiarong to take action. Besides, as a 5-year-old child, how could she move such a heavy bamboo bed?" Qiao Jiarong found a good reason for himself. "The room has been tidied up, the bed has been set up, and then it's time to lay the bedding. What should I do if I don't have it? This will not defeat Qiao Jiarong. She doesn't have it herself, Qiao Meili and Qin Jie do." Qiao Jiarong brought over the pillow that Qiao Meili was pillowing and removed the outer pillowcase. "I prepared to go to their room and get a new set of sheets and pillowcases, and asked my aunt to sew them on again. Unexpectedly, she suddenly exerted too much force and tore the pillow apart, spilling rice husks all over the floor." Qiao Jiarong looked at the rice husks on the ground and found a silver key in the middle. Why does this key look so familiar? After thinking for a while, Qiao Jiarong finally wanted to come. "Isn't this the key my mother left her before she passed away? How did it get into Qiao Meili's hands? Look at her carefully hiding in the pillow, does she know anything?" Qiao Jiarong picked up the key from the ground and then approached Qiao Meili, saying, "Why is my key in your pillow?" Qiao Meili looked at Qiao Jiarong's expressionless face and felt a little scared, but she tried to remain calm and said, "I didn't know there was a key in the pillow either. Maybe this key isn't yours, they just look a bit like each other." Qiao Meili doesn't want to return this key to Qiao Jiarong. She thinks this key must be of great use, but now she doesn't know. "I heard that San Auntie was an educated youth sent from a big city, and the things she left behind are definitely not ordinary things. Even if she didn't notice any difference in the key, she couldn't find a lock that matched it." Qiao Jiarong carefully observed Qiao Meili's expression and did not find any flaws. Perhaps Qiao Meili didn't notice the abnormality of the key, she just wanted to grab her things. No matter what her intention of stealing this key is, Qiao Jiarong will bring it back. As for what Qiao Meili said about similarities, Qiao Jiarong wouldn't believe a single word. The Qiao family is so poor that they jingle loudly. How could they have such a delicate silver key? Even if there is really silver at home, the Qiao family would never use silver as a key. The only possibility is that Qiao Meili somehow found out that her mother had left something for her and tricked her out of it. Thinking of the foolish things he had done before, Qiao Jiarong stroked his forehead. Never mind, now that she's back, Qiao Meili can no longer deceive anything from her hands. Qiao Meili felt a wave of disappointment when she saw Qiao Jiarong put away the silver key, feeling like she had lost something. She was unwilling and thought for a moment before saying, "Xiaorong, you gave me this key before. How could you take it back?" Qiao Jiarong looked at her and smiled, saying, "Sending it. Isn't it a scam? This is the only thing my mother left me, and you can even deceive me. Qiao Meili, what about your conscience? My mother used to be good to you. Whatever Dad buys when he comes back, she will take it out for me to share with you. But how did you do it? You advised them behind their backs on how to bully me without being discovered. Now you still have the face to say that this key was given to you by me. Do you think I can't remember the past when I was young? Is that right? I tell you, I remember everything. I will return what you have done to me, one by one, so that you can also taste the feeling of being bullied." After speaking, she gave Qiao Meili a slap. After finishing the fight, he continued, "This is the price you paid for deceiving me before. Next time, I will beat your face into a pig's head, the kind that will never disappear." Qiao Meili was frightened by Qiao Jiarong's fierce appearance, and even scared back what she originally wanted to say. Just covering the half of the face that was beaten, crying incessantly. Chen Suying, seeing her daughter being beaten, approached her with heartache and hugged her, saying, "How could you beat Meili? She used to protect you." "Mom, stop talking. Xiarong didn't mean it, she just accidentally hit me." Qiao Meili leaned against Chen Suying's arms, pretending to defend Qiao Jiarong, and then secretly scrutinized the reactions of people around her. This was something Qiao Meili was used to doing. Qiao Jiarong was too lazy to watch her act there. In the face of absolute strength, all means are in vain. She pulled out Qiao Meili and threw her aside. "Yes. Just throw it away." Qiao Meili was thrown out and happened to collide with Qiao Lei, who had just come out of the room. Qiao Lei had just woken up when he heard his sisters crying and quickly ran out. "I didn't expect to be knocked unconscious again just as I walked into the yard." Chen Suying saw her son and daughter's tragic situation and shouted loudly, wanting to go over and help them. Unexpectedly, after only taking one step, Qiao Jiarong stopped him and said, "Did I let you go? Please sew this pillow back on for me, otherwise I will continue to dismantle Qiao's beautiful pillow." Although Chen Suying felt sorry for her son and daughter, she dared not disobey Qiao Jiarong's words and could only bear to take the broken pillow and sew it up. After sewing, Chen Suying threw the pillow to Qiao Jiarong. Then, without looking back, he ran away. "If you don't leave, I'm afraid Qiao Jiarong will find something else to do for her. There are several injured people waiting for her to take care of at home." Qiao Jiarong had a pillow and blanket, but he didn't care about Chen Suying's attitude. She moved all these things to her own firewood room and laid them on the bed, then closed the broken door of the firewood room, isolating the Qiao family outside the door. When the Qiao family finally saw that she had stopped making trouble, they felt relieved but also very frustrated. Their family was injured and sick, while she seemed to be unharmed. But they dare not say it, afraid that she will make trouble again, and also afraid that their family will be injured again. Now both the patients and the injured at home are reluctant to go to the barefoot doctor to get medicine. How dare they let the rest of the family get injured again? The rice is about to be harvested in the field, and everyone is injured. Who is going to harvest the rice? So, Qiao Laosi and Jiang Ermiai turned a blind eye to Qiao Jiarong. As long as she doesn't cause trouble, everything else is easy to say. Qiao Jiarong had a place to live and retrieved the keys left for her by her mother. She's too lazy to argue with them. If she had that time, why not push the formation twice more? By the way, which lock does this key actually open? Qiao Jiarong held the silver key and lowered his head in contemplation. She was thinking about what her mother had said to her after her death, perhaps inferring from those words. For too long, Qiao Jiarong couldn't recall what her mother had said to her. Since he can't remember, Qiao Jiarong can only put away the key and start to deduce the formation. Perhaps due to a different mood, the promotion went smoothly this time. Qiao Jiarong quickly deduced the previous bad luck formation. After collecting the stones from the pushing formation, Qiao Jiarong went to the main room for dinner and then went back to sleep. When he slept until midnight, Qiao Jiarong suddenly sat up from the bed. She finally remembered what her mother had said before her death. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 2 house titles in the mezzanine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. 2 house titles in the mezzanine. Before her death, her mother said, let her often kowtow to her grandparents' graves. Is there anything wrong with the cemetery of my grandparents? It should be, otherwise why does my mother have to make her often go to my grandparents' graves to worship? Mom loves her father so much that she didn't even say to go to his grave to pay respects. There must be something wrong with the graves of my grandparents. I'll go take a look tomorrow and maybe discover something. The next morning, Qiao Jiarong had breakfast at home and went to the back mountain with a hoe. My grandparents' grave is located halfway up the back mountain, far from my parents' grave. Perhaps my mother deliberately placed the grave so far away, just not wanting anyone to discover the secrets inside. Xiao Meili saw Qiao Jiarong go up the mountain again, and she thought it might be related to the key from yesterday. So, he secretly followed up. Qiao Jiarong only walked a short distance when he noticed someone following him, and he didn't take it seriously at first. I just thought the people behind me would go to the village. After all, she only gave the Qiao family a lesson yesterday, and they probably didn't have the courage to follow her. I didn't expect there to be an exception. Qiao Jiarong had already walked to the foot of the mountain, and the other party was still following behind stealthily. Curious, she used her divine sense to look back. Ha! Surprisingly, it's Xiao Meili. Sure enough, she has the potential to be a female lead. She has enough tea, is also patient, and can bend and stretch. This is the standard configuration for a female lead. In my past life, wasn't I also deceived by her appearance? However, being born in this countryside with Qiao's beautiful temperament is really a waste of her good skills. If you were born into an ancient official family, perhaps you could enter the palace to have a bright future. It's really a pity. Qiao Jiarong felt regretful for Xiao Meili in his heart, but he quickly shook her off with the quick wind technique at his feet. Xiao Meili walked and hid, and in the blink of an eye, Qiao Jiarong disappeared. I searched back and forth several times but couldn't find anyone, feeling angry and jumping in place. Whether Qiao Meili was Qiao Meili or not, she quickly calmed down. Guess where Qiao Jiarong might go? She looked at the road leading to the mountain and carefully analyzed it. It is speculated that Qiao Jiarong may have gone to bury his third uncle and aunt, as it is still very dangerous for a child to go up the mountain. Xiao Meili does not recognize that Qiao Jiarong went hunting in the mountains. Guessing where Qiao Jiarong might go, Xiao Meili went directly to the graves of Qiao Weimin and Lu Rou. However, when she arrived at the grave, she did not see Qiao Jiarong. Xiao Meili couldn't figure it out. Did she guess wrong? Xiao Meili didn't come to pay respects to her uncle and aunt. Where did she go then? I saw her heading up the mountain before, and that road was completely impassable except for going up the mountain. Qiao Jiarong won't go hunting in the mountains, will he? She heard that there are wolves in the back mountain. Just Qiao Jiarong's small physique is not enough for wild wolves to fill their teeth when going up the mountain. So, where exactly did this dead girl go? Xiao Meili could never have imagined that Qiao Jiarong had gone to her grandparents' grave instead of to her parents' grave. After Qiao Jiarong shook off Xiao Meili, he went straight to the grave of his grandparents. Looking at the two small grave mounds in front of me, as well as the wild grass all over the ground. They were so high that they almost drowned out those two simple tombstones. Qiao Jiarong sighed in his heart, how unfilial he used to be. Since her mother passed away, she has never buried her grandparents, which is why the cemetery has grown so tall with wild grass. Qiao Jiarong scolded himself in his heart and then squatted down to start weeding. Perhaps due to not working for a long time, she felt exhausted after only hoeing for so long. Qiao Jiarong had to stop to rest, perform a cleaning technique on himself, and then continue weeding. After weeding out all the grass in the two cemeteries, Qiao Jiarong's whole body was soaked through. The first thing she did when she got up was to perform a cleansing technique on herself. Although he cleaned himself with magic, Qiao Jiarong still felt the smell of sweat on his body. After some thought, I decided to take a shower in the spiritual spring of the space before coming out. After leaving the space, I saw the ground covered with wild grass. Qiao Jiarong performed another whirlwind spell, rolling all the wild grass in that area into a pile and pushing it to be exposed to the sun. The grass has been cleared, and those two grave mounds are completely exposed. Qiao Jiarong kowtowed to his grandparents first, and then began to think about where his mother would bury things. Is it in front of the wooden tombstone or behind the tombstone? Or is it in the middle of two graves? After thinking for a moment, Qiao Jiarong dug up in front of the tombstone. As for why he dug here first, Qiao Jiarong thought of her mother asking her to often come and kowtow at her grandparents' graves. So, she plans to dig this place first, and if not, go to other places. The hoe is not good for digging. Qiao Jiarong takes out the flying sword he used before he became a Dan from space and uses it as a shovel. Combined with spells, the effect is also quite good. In just half an hour, Qiao Jiarong's flying sword dug out the iron box in front of his grandmother's grave. But the iron box is too large for Qiao Jiarong's current strength to lift. So she directly used her divine sense to transfer the iron box into space. Then, the big hole dug out was filled in again, and that's when we entered the space. After entering the space, Qiao Jiarong came to the iron box. Looking at the silver lock, she took out the silver key and went to open it. Unexpectedly, it really opened. Qiao Jiarong opened the iron box and found many gold, silver, and jewelry inside. Gold is a gold bar, silver is a silver dollar, pearl is the best Eastern pearl, baoquan is a jade artifact from various sources. Except for dongzhu and medicinal herbs, which are packed in wooden boxes, everything else is stacked layer by layer in the box. Neat and without any damage, including those late broken jade pieces. Seeing what was inside the iron box, Qiao Jiarong once again cursed himself in his heart. In my past life, if I had these things, I wouldn't have mixed up like that. Unable to escape and was deceived into another wolf's den. Not only did he fail to change his fate, but he also became disabled and tragically died in the pigsty. Now, I am already a cultivator. It doesn't matter if you don't have these things to add to the icing on the cake. However, these are left for her by her mother, even if she doesn't need them. After checking the contents of the box, Qiao Jiarong decided to close it and put it into the warehouse. However, when she closed it, she noticed that there seemed to be something on the lid of the iron box. Qiao Jiarong touched it with his hand and found that there was actually a layer on the lid of the iron box. She carefully removed the layer of wooden board from the lid and found that there were actually 2 house deeds and a small golden key hidden in the interlayer. The 2 property deeds are from 2 different places. One is in the Magic City, and the other is in the capital city. The houses in these 2 places are quite rare, and according to the picture above, the houses should not be small. Fortunately, the property deed was written in traditional Chinese characters, otherwise Qiao Jiarong wouldn't have recognized it. There is also a promissory note in the property deed, but it is written in simplified Chinese and Qiao Jiarong does not recognize it. So I don't know what is written on this small piece of paper or how useful it is. But it was important that this note could be sandwiched together with the property deed, so Qiao Jiarong put it back together again. Looking at the house deed and a pile of gold, silver, and jewelry in front of him, Qiao Jiarong couldn't understand why his mother didn't go back. Is it because of Dad? She remembers that her parents have a very good relationship. So, did Mom not go back because of Dad? Also, how did Mom bring all these things over? And yet not discovered by anyone else. End of this chapter.